Rob Schutz, and he is the Chief Growth Officer at and co-founder of telehealth company Row. So let's bring in Rob. And he is a busy guy this year. They've been doing a lot, so he'll be interesting to hear what he's having. And do we have him here, guys? They actually started. Oh, there you are.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
here.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
Oh, well, I'm doing good. I appreciate you being here. Where are you? Interesting background there. Are you in New York?
We're actually right outside in New Jersey.
Okay, New
Um,
Jersey.
they force you to move to New Jersey once you have your second small kid. So we're set up in the suburbs.
That is true. Well, I'm glad you could join us. And
Yes, thanks for having us.
yeah, no, and I was just starting to say, you guys are doing a lot this year. I mean, I know you launched in 2017, and at that time you were pretty much just, I think, one product.
Yep.
And since then you've grown substantially, and especially just like I said, this past year, you started an in-home vaccination program, you acquired two companies, and you also, nothing big, but roll out in 97% of Walmart stores. So that's pretty amazing. But before we even get into all that, talk about like that initial starting out. What was your goal at that time? What was your biggest challenge? I mean, as a telehealth brand.
Yeah. Um, totally. We're coming up on our 4-year anniversary of launch. We launched on Halloween 2017. So it's exciting to think about all that's happened over the last couple of years and all we've been able to do. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Lisa, we started out as a telehealth company focused on one condition, right? We were Roman, just focused on erectile dysfunction. 4 years later, we're the only healthcare company in the country that can seamlessly integrate telehealth, in-home care, labs, diagnostics, and pharmacy. So we've been really fortunate to invest in a lot of these areas at the foundational infrastructure level. And again, when we launched, and most folks still kind of know us as Roman, focused on sexual health, but they've been surprised to see that Row has really evolved to be this integrated primary care platform. Um, we now treat well over 20 conditions on the platform. We have a cash pay mail order pharmacy with thousands of generics, around roughly $5 a month shipped to your door. We have a physical pharmacy infrastructure. We have 10 physical pharmacies across the country, opening up more next year as well. We have providers that can send a test kit to your home. We can now send a person to your home, a phlebotomist or a nurse, for different types of treatments, and we do all this in a cash pay way without taking insurance. So setting the stage a little bit, you know, thinking back to those early days, in 4 years feels like a long time ago. But I think, in the early days prior to launch, I think that we thought some of our biggest challenges were going to really be around education and really like licensing and the regulatory side. Like on the education piece, we're starting with erectile dysfunction. We're excited to start there actually because it was taboo and we could kind of come in and legitimize this with doctors and science and treating it really seriously. But education around like ED being an overall indicator of a man's health. So high signs, signs of high cholesterol or diabetes or heart disease or depression. We called it, still call it a guy's check engine light. It's kind of the first physical sign that something is going on. So we wanted to make sure every ad, every article, every touch point was rooted in kind of this type of insight, and we were positioned as a healthcare company. And then on the regulatory side, things are just changing really rapidly. So making sure we had licensed for the pharmacies to be able to ship to different states. We had providers that were licensed in each state. Each state has its own licensing challenges that go through. So
Cool.
we figured like those types of logistical things were going to be the big challenges. I think those 100% were challenges. I think the surprising thing I kind of ran into really early was like our biggest challenge was just being able to advertise. Um, when you think about major platforms like Facebook and Google, they didn't really know what to do with us early on, right? We weren't a doctor's office, we weren't a healthcare system, we weren't a pharmacy, we're kind of a combination of all of these things. And we happen to be starting with ED, which is a taboo topic and kind of
Gets flagged a
historically
little bit.
had been very historically snake oily. So people are like, what are you doing? What do you want to advertise? Um, and so we really got kicked off of every major ad platform over the first couple of weeks, multiple times. I remember actually being on the train back to New Jersey and getting off at a stop to copy over. One of our accounts got suspended, copied everything over through PowerWriter to another account. I had like 7 ad accounts set up, and I would just copy the campaigns over every time we got kicked off, until we finally got a chance to sit down with the team and explain what we were doing and have them talk to our doctors. Same thing with Google. I remember the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, um, our account just got shut down without any explanation. So
Wow.
team hustled to like put a whole new website, a whole new merchant account got set up, and we were live again before the end of the long weekend. But it was constantly just like this whack-a-mole of trying to keep ads up. And it took a lot of education and time and meeting with our doctors and our advisors and our physician in residence would spend a lot of time with the policy folks at these platforms, just explain like what we're doing and why and how it's rooted in science, um, until they got comfortable enough and they could kind of understand the nuts and bolts of the business to really allow us to open things up. So
More.
plenty of early challenges,
Well, it
but
sounds,
all part of building something new.
yeah, it sounds like you, I mean, aside, you sort of had to legitimize yourself to these people, but now, did that have to do anything with messaging? Because that's another thing I want to talk about with you in terms of you have a very specific style of messaging, which isn't
Yeah.
necessarily, I mean, usually it's about brand purpose, and yours is very much rooted in the ailment. Talk about
hmm
that. And was that sort of triggered from all of these issues that you started and, had to face early on?
I mean, I actually think it would have been easier if we were going in trying to talk more about the brand and the brand we're building versus what we did, which is really focus on, we call it jobs to be done, like what people actually care about. And since day one, we've been working to create this new category. We call it direct to patient, D2P. We want to combine the efficiencies of um, the DTC business model with healthcare and being patient centric, which is really missing in the healthcare system. And when like a good example of that is like when you go to the doctor now, it doesn't feel super patient centric, right? You don't really know what you're getting charged for or how much it's going to cost, what service you're getting. Like insurance is kind of in the middle of everything. Like if you ever try to read an EOB, you realize pretty quickly like that's not for you. It's sent to you, but it's for your insurance company. A lot of the system is built around getting reimbursed by insurance. So D2P is more about removing traditional healthcare barriers between patients and their providers, and focusing on cash pay that aligns incentives and puts patients really at the center of everything. So that being said, I mean, I think that we use this approach. We call it jobs to be done. Of let's start with things that patients want and find where that overlaps with what they need. So when you think about it, telehealth has been around for 20, 25 years at this point, but historically, legacy telehealth companies have struggled to go direct to patient because it's been very much about the like, we're the doctor in your pocket, right? Like we're here where and when you need us. Just let us know what you need. And then people are like, what do you do? And we're like, we do everything. What do you want? It's like, I don't know. I'll download your app next time I have a sinus infection, right? Um, but our kind of unique insight was like just taking the way that everyone else advertises in D2C and applying that to healthcare, right? People are already waking up in the morning thinking about challenges they have in their life, right? There, if you're struggling with ED, you're losing your hair, you have crippling acne, you're trying to quit smoking, like you're literally waking up in the morning and when you look in the mirror, that's what you're thinking about. And so jobs to be done is more about meeting people in that moment and saying like, hey, let's advertise that thing. You want to quit smoking? You want to take care of your acne? Here's how we can help you, and bring them into the ecosystem so that we can then help them eventually with what they need, but start with what they want. And so that is really prevalent in our advertising. And so, we've evolved. It started very direct, like, prescribed online, delivered to your door for these different conditions, being very to the point, like here are the functional benefits that you can get by using our service. And we use those in a way that allow people to understand they can connect with the doctor legally, safely from their couch on their phone, and then if it's safe and appropriate, they will, have medication shipped to their door. Um, so it's really about building things that patients want in the present, and then knowing that that can improve their health and their quality of life, and build this deeper relationship over the course of time.
Once you draw them in. What was the
Yeah.
main acquisition channels that you were using?
Yeah, I mean, early on, once we got through some of those initial hurdles, right, we were using paid search, paid social, like all of the core channels. I spent the last 5 years prior to Row at BarkBox, and really helping build out performance and marketing teams. And so it kind of brought more of that D2C playbook. And that's how we've thought about actually D2P, is like use those best practices, but do it for healthcare in a way that most folks don't do on the healthcare side. Um, and then other channels, I mean, it took a little bit of time. As I said, like audio properties, podcasts were not interested right out of the gate. There's not a lot of UGC flying around. There weren't a ton of like unboxing videos of someone getting these types of products. But we pushed aggressively. We were probably live on TV 4 to 5 months after we launched. Um, that's something I prioritized early. I had done a lot of TV in my tenure at Bark, and just understand the power of top of funnel and how that interplays with performance. And then after a while, audio and out of home kind of came along. We got a few key influential folks on board, and that kind of helped snowball things a little bit, but took a lot of conversations and um, hand wringing to kind of get some of those initial folks signed up.
Yeah, well, I think we have one of your TV spots that,
Yeah, let's cue it up.
let's take a look at that, and like people can see what you're talking about.
I started noticing losing my hair in my 20s.
I was like, yeah, my hairline is definitely starting to recede.
Like, is this happening to me now?
What really stuck out about Roman to me was the simplicity aspect.
I was able to talk to a doctor on the phone.
I could just do it right from home.
My relationship with my hair is fantastic. We're good friends now.
It makes me feel a lot more confident.
I love my new hair.
The things I love about Roman are the simplicity, the confidentiality, and the fact that it works.
And that's definitely, I mean, obviously a great example of just going right directly to the problem and
Yeah.
going from there. And I know that was early on, but as you've established yourself more, you have become more known, more legitimate, or, in terms of people wanting to run your ads, but you still keep with that kind of messaging. I'm curious, has it evolved at all, or why do you still continue to do that?
Yeah, I mean, even from that ad, and those three gentlemen were awesome, and continue to be great advocates for the platform. I mean, I think to kind of put a bow on that, like that type of messaging, it shows real patients come to the platform to get help with something they want, right? Hair loss in this case, it as opposed to like talking really broadly about the value of connecting with your doctor, addressing underlying health conditions. Like the reality is these types of touch points then unlock a lot of great conversations as a way to think about proactive prostate screenings or cholesterol tests. Like once the relationship is established, but people don't care about that. Like people actually don't care. Like no one wakes up and says, my cholesterol hurts so much today, I got to go deal with it. People want to start with things that help them look better, help them feel better, help them get through their daily lives more. And from there, we then work to cut out as much friction as possible to unlock these other things that they can proactively do around their health. So our messaging, yes, has evolved somewhat. I think as you think about the spectrum, when something is new, when we're like the first folks on the scene doing this, you really want to focus on those functional benefits, right? 2-day shipping, talk to your doctor anytime, cancel or delay at any point you want, like the real functional benefits. Over time, you start to move a little bit more into what you see here, some of the emotional benefits as well, as those things become commoditized, right? Like 2-day shipping is not compared to some of the space, it is unique, but that's not what you hang your hat on at this point. It's more about what it unlocks for someone, and allowing people to tell those stories. So we're certainly progressing along that spectrum, but it depends on the type of condition. We have newer conditions that we've launched that are less mainstream yet, and people need to just get educated on it. Like, what does getting a blood test and talking to my doctor mean? Like, how quickly could someone come to my home and to take that test? You need to talk more about the functional benefits there to actually educate people. And then as it becomes more well-known, you can talk more about what that unlocks over the course of time.
Yeah, and well, before we get into a little bit more of that, we have a Subway ad of yours. That's
Yeah,
more
let's show
recent.
the Subway
Slide.
ads.
So if you want to sort of, what was the idea behind these in terms of, I mean, one on the subway, obviously everyone's just staring at them, but you are again directly going right to the problem.
Yeah, totally. It's more about like this shows a little bit more about what we're unlocking for people, but it brings it back to pretty functionally like, hey, if you're thinking about hair loss, if that's important to you, like let's go take care of it. If ED is an issue in your life and your intimacy with your partner is struggling, let's take care of it. So really going right for it. And honestly, I think the best companies do these types of things, right? There's certainly a room for brand and to build brand, but we really believe in you build your brand through this type of advertising, right? If you look at some of the biggest, most successful companies, Apple launches a new phone, they talk about the phone. They talk about the features of the phone and what it unlocks for you, right? Like, amazing new camera, Amazon, their Super Bowl ad, they're still talking about Amazon Alexa and what Alexa can do for you. It's not about Amazon broadly. So really focusing on the products, the functional, and then the emotional benefits, I think is a great way to build your brand, but then also make sure that it's doing work for you on the performance side as well.
Well, it almost seems you're performance driven, but that kind of is brand as well. Like it seems like you're combining both in one, or at least then evolving to that, just because, as you said, once people sort of go in there with that ailment, what's going on, then they need to learn more about you guys and that process.
Yeah, and it just cuts out the friction to deal with these other types of things, right? If somebody comes in for hair loss or skin or weight management or an anxiety or depression, like whatever's important to them is kind of the door. And then they look around, they realize they're in the middle of this health system where they can get everything done. And a doctor could say, hey, you're 45 years old. I don't see any blood work on here. When's the last time you got your cholesterol checked? Can I send someone to your house this weekend? And then we can talk it through on Monday. They just have to hit a button. It becomes really easy to allow people to do these things they know they should do, but they a lot of times don't have the motivation to do. But you have to start with something they care about, or else it becomes like you couldn't run these Subway ads for a cholesterol treatment. I just don't think people would respond to them because there's less daily pain that people feel from that, and they're thinking about it less on a daily basis versus the stuff people are already worrying about. Meet them at eye level. That's jobs to be done. Meet them at eye level, help bring them in, and then work really hard to build trust and deepen that relationship.
Right. Well, I want to definitely get into, as mentioned earlier, you guys are now in Walmart, like 4,600 stores in the US. Why it was early this year in the spring that you started to roll out. Why now? Why was this the right timing for you guys?
Yeah. Super exciting. This is really our first foray into retail. It's going incredibly well. And for us, it was about 3.5 years in that we moved into retail. We'd already built out a really, really strong infrastructure to support our over-the-counter products. And we'd already really started building out demand. We do a lot of top of funnel. We're an official partner of Major League Baseball. We run a lot of ads. People know more and more of the Roman brand specifically. And so being able to then move into Walmart is really more just about that same concept I mentioned before of meeting patients at eye level, like meeting them where they are. Sometimes they want to start talking about their health by talking to a doctor or a nurse. Sometimes it's through Health Guide, our content property, which does millions of visits a month. Sometimes it's like they just want to walk through the aisles at a Walmart and look at different supplements and things that can help with their health. So wherever they are, we want to be able to meet them. And what better way to do that than Walmart, where 90% of the country is within 10 miles of a Walmart, and 30 million people visit Walmart each week. So we felt like with this rollout, we can now meet patients online, at home, in retail, it kind of becomes a really powerful driver for the brand, and clearly on the sales side as well. And so,
Well,
oh yeah,
but that's an
please.
aggressive approach, and but one, you waited 3.5 years about. So why did you wait that long? But also, then when you finally do enter retail, it's very, you go full on.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
at this point was that what you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is we wanted to make sure, one, I'll say maybe a little bit controversial, but I don't think that retail strategy is. I don't think a retail strategy is table stakes for D2C. I don't think that everyone should pursue a retail strategy. You have to be in a good spot, right? Your margins have to be in a good place. Unity economics really need to work, and I think you can treat it as we do, as like a really really good billboard for brand awareness. But at the same time, if you sell a lot of product there, you also want to make sure it's good for your business, because one of the retail great for many reasons, but one of the challenges is you don't own that customer relationship. And so if you go too deep into retail too early, where you're selling product but you don't create any sort of connection to the consumer, you don't even have their email address, and you're relying on just trying to get people to then come back to your website for maybe the higher margin types of products, that can get a bit tricky, right? Because you want to do well at retail, but at the same time, if you're not really making money there, or scaling in retail is actually tough on the unit economic side, that becomes a challenge, because you're beholden to a third party and sales of the third party. And are you going to get included in the newsletter insert? Do you have to put dollars into advertising on their website, etc.? So for us, we felt like we had to be in a good spot foundationally there. We had already started operating a lot of different marketing channels. We're not, as I mentioned, we're official partner of Major League Baseball, we're the official sponsor of Game 162 coming up this weekend, so please tune in. We've been a partner with NHL to sponsor the playoffs. We do a lot in that space, but entering Walmart is another amazing marketing channel that helps amplify a lot of the things we've already started to do. So we knew it made sense strategically, and we also knew it made sense from a demographic standpoint. Same reason that baseball is a great fit for us. Walmart is a great fit for us. So the average patient on row is 46 years old. 40% of our patients are over the age of 50. And if you look at like Walmart, even as we looked at the retail landscape, the average age of a Walmart shopper is also 46. So it's a really good overlap where folks that are already using our products, that's where they spend a lot of time on the retail side as well. And so it was great. It's been a great place to start. It's kind of the initial foray for our strategy around retail, and we were really excited to be able to dive right in. And some companies will stagger it and let's do 100, let's do 200. We got tremendous support and enthusiasm from the Walmart team, who said let's go do this, and we didn't want to miss out on that opportunity.
Well, I want to get everyone else a chance to ask you a question, but I do have one more question before we get there. And just in terms of, because you talked about that, the initial pause in not going into retail is you want to keep that relationship with the consumers. How are you then now going, keeping that relationship, when they're buying it in Walmart, they could just be buying it and going home and they don't even care about row. How are you maintaining that relationship?
Well, I will generally go to each of the Walmarts one per day and just kind of talk to people and show them our website. No. There's a bunch of different tactics, and different people have found success in different areas. We have an insert in each of the boxes, which has a discount, drives them back to the website for other products and services, etc. So that's kind of our initial foray in how we tied that relationship back together. But again, that's why I think it's actually critically important that you can't assume that is going to work so well that it's going to help pay for the unit economics if they're negative. If you're selling at a loss or just purely break even on the retail side, and you're anticipating that like, hey, we'll bring 20% of people back in, you might be able to do that, but it's probably going to take you a long time and a lot of work. And so that's back to my point of like, the timing is important, making sure your business is a good place to support those types of efforts, even if they don't work out right out of the gate. It's just it's a really important part of the strategy.
So even if you didn't sell what you were, hoping to gain, that 20% or whatever it is, you were okay with that. You weren't losing money on that.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, well, Steve, I think, do we have any questions here?
We do. We got some great questions. Hi, Rob. Good to see you again.
Oh, hello, Steve.
Okay. So a lot of D2Cs, or most D2Cs, actually migrate to TV after a lot of online advertising first, and TV is sort of the last step for them. You seem to champion it early on. Heather asks, why did you do this? Why was TV out of the gate so important to Row, and how did you sell it internally?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the back half. The nice part about also being a founder of the company was I didn't really have to sell it. I talked to my co-founders and I said, this is kind of the strategy. We're all aligned. Let's go do it. So that's certainly been beneficial. I think for us, again, we were starting out as Roman and just erectile dysfunction. There was already kind of a playbook for that, right? Everyone's seen the 20 years of like super awkward bathtub ads, couples holding hands in the bathtub. And, I think it was between the two major players in ED, Viagra and Cialis, they were spending something like $400 million a year on TV just on NFL ads, just an NFL ad. So this was kind of already a thing that existed. And now we were able to go in and say, by the way, those weird, creepy ads you've been seeing for 20 years, you can now safely, legally do that on your couch from your phone. And so it was less of early on, it was less of a product market fit. The product market fit was already there. It was more of a distribution market fit and a business model market fit. And so we felt really good about being able to push, given we were seeing signs of success in traditional channels, trying to copy some of what has been going on for the last 20, 25 years as well.
Tom Dvorin asks, given your success in attracting 6 million digital healthcare visits, can you talk about the role that content personalization plays in your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways to think about personalization, right? Like at its core, everyone has their own unique experience with their provider. So our job is we bring them into the ecosystem. People will kind of self-select into things that are going on in their life that they'd like to talk to a provider around. And then once that relationship is established, there's unlimited messaging back and forth all day, every day. So it is a very personal set of communications and questions that probably happen between patients and providers. On another thread, we've invested heavily in a property called Health Guide. It's really just it's questions. It's the most pressing health questions answered by doctors on the internet. So everything is written and reviewed by doctors. We have a whole team that just works in Health Guide, and we're on track to do in the tens of millions of visits per month. We've invested in there very early. And so that's personalized in the sense of people are just searching for what they want. And sometimes the doctor will link to a Health Guide article. Sometimes people will go in and they will navigate to those on their own. But content and making sure that's personalized to what people actually care about is certainly a very important part of the strategy.
Well, thanks. That was great.
That was awesome. So Rob, that was really, like I said, when I spoke with you, the Walmart was so interesting, but also your messaging. So you got that all right across. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you.